Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the Chairman of Monmouthshire County Council.
Good afternoon, Lord Lieutenant, High Sheriff, distinguished guests, fellow councillors and guests. Welcome to the annual meeting of Monmouthshire County Council. The first item is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence? Yes.
Councillor Smith, Chair.
Thank you, Liz.
At the moment.
Councillor Jez Becker.
Thank you. Any more? No. Declarations. Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
Councillor A. Watts and Kevin Williams.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Councillor Lisa Dimmock.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's it now. Declarations of interest. The next item on the agenda is the election of a new chairman for the civic year 2018 to 2019. Before I call for nominations, I wish to address the council. It doesn't seem 12 months since I was sat here having the chain put on. It's gone far quicker than it did 5 years ago. I don't know whether I've been busy or I'm getting older, I'm not sure which. I've attended many events throughout Wales, all of them interesting, and I hope that you've managed to read the little bit in the agenda each month, because I'm not going to read them all out now. Some of them have made more impression than others. They've all been very impressive. Going towards the forces, we had the reaffirmation of the freedom of Monmouth to the Royal Welsh in Abergavenny, where we had a wonderful parade, and it was a very moving day. Luckily, it was fine as well. And a few weeks ago, I went to 2 different services for the RAF because it's their anniversary, one in Barry and one in Swansea. And then last Sunday, the memorial to the Monmouthshire Regiment for those that were lost at the Battle of Ypres. These have been very impressive, and it makes us all think about things. You know, we take so much for granted, but these services are very moving. Some of my most happy days have been at the school productions and all the things that the young people do. We've got wonderful schools in Monmouthshire, and they all seem to produce so much talent. The talent of our young people in this county, it goes beyond belief, not just in the productions they put on the stage, but also in their sporting abilities. And as a council, we do try to encourage our children to get involved in sports, where we have the Monmouthshire player times during the holidays and half terms. And this is something I think that matters a lot to us. I went to 2 of the Young Enterprise events, one at the beginning of my year in Newport, which was the finals of that year, where schools send in teams where they produce something new or something innovative. And that was a very impressive. I mean, some of the things that they make and design are quite amazing. And not only do they design them, but they have to give a presentation as if they were selling them, and how they're going to market it and everything like that. And then now, in a few weeks ago, I went into the rounds are starting now for the finals this coming year. And I went down to Newport for the Gwent area finals, so that they would choose the ones representing them there. And one of the most wonderful things was your paper bags, your polythene bags. They devised an instrument that would, with heat, would make these plastic bags into a material, and they made slip-on shoes, sandal things, which they were sending out to places like India, Pakistan, where the children have no shoes. And they looked a bit rough, but they were going to do the job. And that was recycling these polythene bags, which there's all the press about at the moment. And that was a bunch of school children. But I think the most moving thing that day was the one team, they go across various schools. The one team had a young lad that was autistic. Not too bad, but he was autistic. And I thought he's just there and he's probably helped them do it, but he won't say anything. But when they got up and made their presentation, although he was all the jitters and like this, but when it was his turn, he stood there with his hands at his side and he spoke for quite a while, clearly and loudly. And I thought that was marvellous. Through that event, they'd brought him out of himself so that he could make a really good presentation. And I think that was one of the most moving things I've had. I want to thank all those who helped me raise the money for my charities, whether it was sponsoring my swim, whether it was giving your Christmas card money in towards the charity, or attending any of my events. And I thank you very much for that. I'm not quite sure how much we've raised yet, but I no doubt Linda will sort it out just now. But I want to thank especially that she's there. I want to thank Linda. There she is. Linda and Julia for keeping me on the straight and narrow, for organising everything. I tell you what, we're so lucky to have them. Don't think any other authority can have so. We call it a Linda. If you go somewhere else, you say, who was that? Oh, that's their Linda. But that's how well known she is for all the good things she does. And also I want to thank Steve, although he's not here, for transporting me about the country and taking care of me. I want to thank Canon Mark. Oh, you're at the back now, aren't you? Canon Mark for being my chaplain and being a strong support. Thank you very much indeed. But most of all, I want to thank John. Because without him, I wouldn't do any of this. Thank you very much. Didn't mean to say he spoke with his arm, no. Oh, thank you.
Madam Chair. Madam Chairman, I hope you will indulge me. I would like to say a few words, if I may. Madam Chairman, Lord Lieutenant, High Sheriff, distinguished guests, it would be remiss if a leader didn't stand today and pay tribute to such a wonderful chairman. So this year, as you've rightly said, Maureen, has flown past, and it only seems like yesterday that we installed you as our chairman. And as you clearly know, and we all know, this is your second time. But both times you've had to preside over new councils. And that's a big challenge because there's a lot of new elected members, new faces, just the practicalities of running a meeting and recognising everybody and understanding them, but also helping them understand the process of the council meeting. And you firstly had to do that in 2012 in the Shire Hall in a makeshift county hall chamber whilst this place was being created. And, and that was hard for you. And you did well in that year. And this year it was only right that you had an opportunity to be chair in a proper chamber. And I'm so pleased that you took the role on. And you've done this year, you've done it fantastically. I really do. Thank you so much for the way in which you have carried out the role. It's fair to say you have massive integrity, and you have managed the meetings in here with great fairness. And but outwardly, outside of this chamber, you've been putting the council and the people of Monmouthshire first, while dealing with, we all know, significant health problems yourself. And there are not many people who I know that could have managed what you have this year, and I say that most sincerely, and I know you well. Maureen, I've been just amazed how active you have been during the year, attending so many functions, as you've already alluded to, on our behalf, raising money for your two charities, the Wales Air Ambulance and the Alzheimer's Society Cymru. But I must mention your sponsored swim. You've done this before, you did it several times, but you personally raised over £1,000 for those charities with your own personal efforts, a clear testimony to your strength and determination. And, that says, it speaks volumes when you actually go out and do that yourself and raise the money. Our other highlights of the year must include your Gwent Music Chairman's Charity Showcase in Chepstow Leisure Centre. I know how important Gwent Music is to you, demonstrated by your constant support and regular attendance at the many events that the Gwent Music put on, and a wonderful service, and thank you for your continued support with them. And also your involvement in the Gavo Volunteer Awards as one of the judging panel, which I think was held in last October time, where you were presenting the winner of the Chairman's Award, and that was an important day as well. Together with your participation at the launch of the Young Carers Rights Day in Hillston Park in November, another really important day. And of course, we mustn't forget the opening of Morrison's in Abergavenny, an area of significant contention for several years, which we finally brought to a head, and I think it's now very much welcome. I'll probably get shot in the press for saying that tomorrow, because there'll be a load of people who aren't happy. But I also must thank John, your consort. John, I promise I won't ask Maureen to do it again, but I know how much work there is in this role and how much support is needed for the chairman. And John, you've been a fantastic support to Maureen whilst dealing with several challenges yourself as well. So, a big thanks from all of us here. As leader of the council and the Conservative group, I sincerely thank you, Maureen, for all you have done and for being an excellent chairman of this council. I hope now that you and John can take a deserved rest and hopefully return to a modicum of normality in your lives. So many thanks again. Maureen, I'm sure my colleague leaders would also like to say a few words, but personally again, can I thank you for your support of me as leader. It's been a pleasure working with you, as it always is, and we've got many more years working together, so we look forward to that. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, every time I get elected, Maureen, or in this case re-elected, you're chair. And I'm sad to hear you won't be going a third time. It doesn't bode well for me. I always viewed you as a lucky charm. You're a very well-known matriarch of the Conservative Party, but I suppose you're the matriarch of this council. Well, at least I consider you that. To be that, it's been a less troublesome term this term than your first. We have a home now. We don't have falling speakers, which was interesting, wasn't it? And I would say maybe the newbies are less mischievous this time. I don't know. Maybe a controversial statement. You've had a great year. I want to repeat what Peter said, all the various events you've been to. You've been a stalwart for this council, a figurehead for this council, and you've been fair. And as leader of the main opposition group, that's really important for us, that we have a fair chair, because Monmouthshire residents vote for who they vote for, but the chair or the chairwoman of this council has to be the figurehead for all of them and represent all of them, make sure all voices are heard, and you've done that, Maureen, over this past year, and we pay tribute for that, because it hasn't been easy sometimes. It gets a bit raucous sometimes, doesn't it, Peter? But we really appreciate you for that, and all your charity work and your legendary swimming capabilities. Fantastic. So on behalf of the Labour group, we thank you and John for the year you've given us.
Good evening, Chair, Lord Lieutenant and the High Sheriff, Cabinet, Senior Officers, Chief Executive, members, fellow councillors, and I'd like to greet and say thank you to all our past chairs and consorts who are here today. It's lovely to see you all. I know many of you, so thank you for coming, and it's a special day, as you know, when you had your day. Maureen, what can I say? A lot's been said. I've known you for many years, Maureen. Many years. I remember you in Gilwan, I think it was a by-election, and so I said to somebody, who's that then? Oh, that's Maureen. She's a hard worker. You still are a hard worker, Maureen. I think you're very respected within the realms of all the people within Monmouthshire as being a hard worker in this chamber. Everybody respects you for that, and you always will be. John, I've known for some time as well, from when you were up in, I think it was Grosmont there, just below Pontrilas with the chainsaw business. So I've known you for many years. You haven't changed. You're still the same, and John is as well. I think Peter alluded on things have been not as good this year for you, and I know John's not been too good either. So, and it does happen, but you've come through it, and you are, as I can see, all rosy there and firing, ready to go within the realms of this chamber. I did bump into you in one of my supermarkets in Abergavenny. I won't say which one it was. That'd be very unfair. But it was nice to just see you, and as a family person as well, just wheeling the trolley around there and just having a 5 minutes chat to you, which we don't, probably as councillors, we don't have nowadays as much as what we used to have in the old chamber. We don't mingle and we don't say things as we should do, and be as friendly as possible. That doesn't happen anymore. You've done several fundraising events, Maureen, and I welcome that for them organisations. You're a very keen swimmer, as I know. I don't know if your membership at Abergavenny will be taken back up again. Who knows? We'll see the car out there. But I think that's your love, is the swimming. And I must say to Councillor Fowler as well, who's no longer with us, because there's some not with us as well, I'm sure you and her must have talked many times about swimming and what it was all about, and your time you spent with children also, and the younger generation in learning to swim and actually encouraging them, which is what you're good at, is encouraging people to do things like that. I think I'm just going to touch on as well, the leader touched on it also, where do we go as a council as well, because the next generation's coming through. Are we actually one of the only authorities in perhaps the next 10 years which will be wanting to have an ambassador, a mayor, or how you want to say, a chairman? I think it's very important as Monmouthshire to align ourselves with having what we have, to go out there and promote ourselves as a council. So I welcome this council in the next few years to continue with that. I think that's very important as a council. We do that because the likes of Maureen and hopefully Councillor Clark will sell us as an authority. There's going to be major changes within local government in Wales in the next probably 5 years. So we need to stay strong as a council. We need to have good chairs, which I've got to say, we never go without them, and we need hard-working chairs as well, and mayors to promote us. Maureen, to John, thank you very much. Wish you well and your family. See you soon. Thank you.
Councillor Guthrie.
Madam Chair, Lord Lieutenant, High Sheriff, distinguished guest, fellow councillors and guests and officers, I'd like to just say a few words. I've had personal experience of what is needed for chairman of this council, the time, commitment and energy required, not only once, but you've taken on twice, and you knew what it was going to be the second time round. You must be commended to take up this role for the second time. Dedicated and hard work. You have been a true ambassador for Monmouthshire, and I know that you would have gone round visiting all the different areas, and you would have talked very highly of Monmouthshire. Thank you very much, Maureen. I know that you've done a lot, and I know that you like to have a chat and tell us your tales. And I hope this year that you will be able to recall those tales of what you've done, what you experienced, and for all the new councillors that started last year, then we'll be able to really get to know what Maureen is. Thank you very much, and thank you, John, for your support on behalf of the Liberal Democrat group. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those nice words you've all said. It's a bit overwhelming, really. I'm glad to feel that I have done a good enough job for you. When I said, when I was invested last year, I said to you I wasn't sure if I was doing a second time because I hadn't done so bad the first time, or whether I was doing it like a resit for exams. So I'm just wondering whether I have got a better grade this time or not. Anyway, we now go on to call for nominations for the office of chairman for the County Council.
Madam Chairman. Madam Chairman, Lord Lieutenant, High Sheriff, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen and fellow members, it gives me great pleasure to nominate Councillor Peter Clark to be the Council's chairman for the ensuing year. Some of us will feel a little deja vu at this point because, as we know, Peter has served as chairman once before, back in 2010, the 2010-11 year. Many longer-serving members here will recall what a sterling job he did in the role, and I have every confidence that Peter will once again make an excellent chairman. Peter has been a county councillor for 30 years. Firstly as a member of Gwent County Council until the reorganisation in 1995, and then as a member for Llangibby Vawr on Monmouthshire County Council until the present day. Born in Leamington Spa during the war, he moved to Wales in 1966 to pursue his career as a quantity surveyor, initially for the first 3 years on projects in Cwmbran Town Centre. In 1971, he built his own home in Crossacheliog. He then married Jan in 1972 and began looking for a home with a larger garden. I think some would say he took that somewhat further than just a new home with a larger garden when in 1973, together with two friends, they bought the Glenaravan house in Usk, converting and renovating it into a small hotel. In 1985, Peter gave up his career in the construction industry and joined Jan on a full-time basis running the Glenaravan. From this early beginning, they have built a thriving family business which continues to develop, with the Glenaravan now being one of the best known and well thought of hotels in Wales. Peter has been a long-serving member of the Planning Committee, being its chairman for many years until he took office, as I shared before, as the County Council's chairman. And from then on, he continues to hold the position of Vice Chair of Planning, and he will continue to do that. He also serves on the Council's Audit Committee and the Democratic Services Committee, and Peter also sits on the Crime and Police Commissioners panel representing Monmouthshire. He's a member of Usk Church County Voluntary, I've got that wrong, CV School Governors, get there. And he's also on Cullinan Comprehensive School Governors. And in his spare time, he likes to read, swim and ski. So I've never seen you skiing yet, Pete, but Madam Chairman, may I reconfirm my nomination for Peter to be chairman of this council for the forthcoming year, and so move.
Will anybody second that? Thank you. Councillor Howard.
Lord Lieutenant, High Sheriff, distinguished guests, fellow councillors and guests, I would like to offer a few very light-hearted comments, since I have perhaps had a unique experience, having known Peter for 20 years as both a colleague and in my student days as one of his employees at the Glenaravan. And for those of you in the chamber who also know Peter, you can come to your own conclusions about which of those experiences were likely to be the most enjoyable. No doubt to his credit, and despite Peter never adopting my ideas for the hotel, such as a ball pool for the kids or two can dine for a tenner, I bear no grudge and look back at that time with some fondness. However, while working with him, I discovered that we had much in common, being sticklers for detail, respecting tradition, support for the monarchy, and a love of music. and also that Peter has a very good sense of humour. In this regard, I recall asking once, rather crassly, who the old geezer was in the hotel's dining room, and on hearing of my inquiry, Peter, with some amusement at my discomfort, enjoyed confirming that the old geezer was his father. Nonetheless, Peter continues to receive a lot of ribbing from me and will continue to receive it, and recently showed only a mere pretence of offence when I said that I'd seen his new overcoat in Primark. Joking aside, Peter was a superb chairman in the civic year from 2010, and I have no doubt he will be as superb in the forthcoming year. Sometimes easily moved, he has a passion for public service, maintaining high standards and conduct, and has perfect manners. I know he is also a very kind and generous man, and not only has he helped many get their feet on the career ladder, he has been a great personal help and support to others. It is therefore with great pleasure that I second the nomination for Councillor Peter Clark.
Are there any further nominations? If there are no further nominations, will you have no votes for Councillor Peter Clark? That's carried. Thank you very much. Any vote? No. Right. Announce the result, which is I give you the new chairman, Councillor Peter Clark. And I now invite Peter Clark to sign his declaration of acceptance of office.
I, Peter Clark, having been elected to the office of Chairman of Monmouthshire County Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code for the time being as to the conduct of which is expected of members of Monmouthshire County Council and which may be revised from time to time. I've got to sign me doodah.
If you move along, I'll have to have my stick before I go. Put my pin.
Maureen, what was it there? Sit there.
I thought I went.
Got to get it right. Lord Lieutenant, the Sheriff, fellow councillors, guests, can I welcome you here this afternoon? It's quite humbling to have been offered this position a second time, and a lot to think about. Can I take this opportunity to endorse all that has been said about Maureen? She really is the hardest working octogenarian I know. For those who don't know what that you have to work with. During my year as Vice Chairman, I have only been called upon once or twice to carry out any one of Maureen's duties, and those have been caused only by diary clashes. Maureen and John, you are an amazing couple to follow, and I pray that Jan and I can fulfil the duty with all the energy and professionalism you both have shown. Can I thank all my fellow county councillors for endorsing my election for a second term. 8 years ago, I stood in our previous chamber with Paul by my side, endeavouring to keep nerves at bay. We got there in the end, and 8 years on, a second term now looms. Many things are different. A new county hall, a very much tighter budget, and a different budget. That afternoon 8 years ago, David Cameron went to the palace and his prime ministerial time began. I don't believe any trips to the palace are planned for today. As a... Oops. I can't read my own writing now.
It was a small.
Yeah, a scribble it is. Obviously, my choice of consort is very obvious, and that's my dear wife of 46 years next week. And I thank her for all her support of me. It's costing me a bloody fortune in dresses. So not even telling me the price of what they are now, which is even more. My chaplain for the year is a new change for us as a council. I have to write it. I have to see it in here. Malcolm Lane, one of our newer county councillors, a member of the clergy, has agreed to be my chaplain, and I'm very grateful for that. It'll be a different situation here, one we've never experienced over all my years, in my 30 years. So, thank you, Malcolm, for agreeing to do that. And I look forward to you being alongside me at the start of each of the county councils for prayers.
Many blessings to you.
Oh, thank you very much. Jan and I have chosen Gwent Music to be our chosen charity this year. Like Maureen, Jan and I and John, we attend very regularly to Gwent Music. And I must be honest with you all, it's a sadness that more of you don't go, because they're a tremendous asset to this county. And now they're not being properly funded by our neighbouring authorities. We in Monmouthshire pick up the brunt of the cost. And I'm hoping that with our efforts raising money for charity this next year, we will be able to help them maintain their excellent standards that they have done over all of the years. Item 4, I now call for the nomination for the office of Vice Chairman of the County Council for the civic year 2018-19. Yeah, okay. Have we got it?
It was my fault.
That's right.
I was bad.
Which has been agreed upon.
Yes, I'll mention that.
Sorry to interrupt, but you were all on that. I'd forgotten about that. Can you manage it?
Once again, this is very unique. Maureen is the only person in Monmouthshire with a badge which has been engraved twice. So there we go.
We didn't spend money on another one.
Cross it down. Thank you, Maureen. I now call for nominations for the office of Vice Chairman of the County Council for the the upcoming civic year. Councillor Greenland.
Lord Lieutenant, High Sheriff, distinguished guests, officers and members. May I first of all, Chairman, congratulate you on taking the chair. You're a bit of an old hand, not using the old too much, but you're well versed with this. And may I wish you the very best of success this year as our representative and as the first citizen of the county. It is my privilege to be able to nominate the post of Vice Chairman for the coming year. And her surname will be synonymous with public service, both here in Monmouthshire, but in particular in Abergavenny, her hometown. And she has had a distinguished career of public service. For instance, and I'm sure this isn't the complete list, she was a founder member and secretary of the Abergavenny Mind Association. She has been a former treasurer, or is a former treasurer, of the Pennyvan Hospital League of Friends. She's a life member of the Abergavenny Gateway Club and has been a member of the WRVS for 20 years. She is currently the chair of the Neville Hall Hospital League of Friends. She is secretary of the Neville Hall Hospital Thrombosis and General Research Fund. Now, in Monmouthshire, we are blessed with having many volunteers who help us right across the realms of public service, and my nomination is no shrinking violet when it comes to volunteering either. She is also a volunteer at the Abergavenny Tourist Information Centre. And she is actively involved in 3 community centres in Abergavenny. In fact, earlier today, I was present at the community centre in Abergavenny for the launch of the Just Food strategy. And together with 2 of our other councillors, Councillor Graucott and Councillor Thomas, our nomination was present there, as she so often is at many of the events in the town. She is also a president and a keen supporter of the Abergavenny Amateur Operatic and Dramatic Society, and is the treasurer and long-standing member of the Abergavenny Ostrogen Twin Town Association. Now, our nomination was first elected to this council last year, and she represents the Grofield ward. And she has, during this last year, made a very prominent start to her career as a county councillor. She certainly keeps on my back on numerous occasions about issues in Abergavenny. She has been married for 45 years. She's 1 year behind you, I can see. 45 years to her husband, Chris, who himself was a former chairman of this council. And she, like him, has also been both town mayor and mayoress in Abergavenny on 2 occasions. So she is here looking for a full house in terms of offices. Chairman, I have much pleasure in nominating to the role of Vice Chairman of this council for the ensuing year, Councillor Sheila Woodhouse.
Thank you, Councillor Greenan. Is the nomination seconded? Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Chair. And Lord Lieutenant, High Sheriff, distinguished guests, officers, members, I have the greatest of pleasure in seconding the nomination of Councillor Sheila Woodhouse for the position of Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any further nominations? No? Then can I please see your hands in support of Councillor Woodhouse's? Yep, thank you. It's clearly carried. I now invite Councillor Woodhouse to come forward. Do you want to go forward and sign?
If you read your declaration first, then I'll...
I, Sheila Woodhouse, having been elected to the office of Vice Chairman of Monmouthshire County Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code for the time being as to the conduct which is expected of members of Monmouthshire County Council and which may be revised from time to time.
If you'll sign here, I'll fit in the rest forward. Okay. Just your signature. Thank you very much.
Gives me a great pleasure to place this chain upon your shoulders.
It's unreal. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, and I get flowers as well. Oh, thank you. Oh, I didn't expect that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Lord Lieutenant, High Sheriff, distinguished guests, fellow councillors and guests, senior officers. I'm not going to say very much, but thank you very much for giving me the privilege of becoming Vice Chairman. I promise to give my full support to our Chairman Peter and his Lady John and the work of Monmouthshire County Council in the forthcoming year. Can I now introduce my consort, my husband Chris? We will both endeavour to work hard for the county following the great examples set by Councillor Powell and Councillor Clark. Thank you very much.
I now invite the past Chairman's consort, Mr. John Powell, to present the consort's change of office to my consort, Mrs. Jan Clark, together with a bouquet of flowers. I've missed one out here. I've missed one out, haven't I? Ball. I've missed one out.
You'll catch up, don't
Okay. I now, I've got it right. I now invite the past Chairman's consort, Mr. John Powell, to present the consort's change of office to my wife, together with a bouquet of flowers. Stay up, Jan. Jan, stay up. I now invite my wife to present the Vice Chairman's consort, Mr. Chris Woodhouse, with his chain of office, and hopefully no flowers. Recycling. With the Council's consent, the remaining items on the agenda, which are 800 pages long, will be deferred to the meeting of the County Council to be held on Thursday the 10th at 2 o'clock, not 5 o'clock. I would now like to invite the Lord Lieutenant, the High Sheriff, distinguished guests, my fellow councillors and guests, and senior officers to join us for refreshments across the landing. Thank you very much indeed.